So a few years back at Mad Monster, my buddy Cecil Laird from the horror show, he had told me that Miko Hughes was going to be at Mad Monster, and he, of course, plays Dylan in Wes Craven's New Nightmare. And he told me about this pitch that he wanted to pitch to Miko. And I was like, go for it. Why not? Right. And so Cecil got up the courage to do it. I know he was like really thinking about it and really like nervous about it. And he did. And Miko was actually like maybe interested. And I'd never seen my friend so excited in his entire life. And here we are years later, and it's become a real thing. It's kind of insane. So for those of you who don't know, this is a fan film for the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise that follows the seventh film in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which is this meta take on the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise where the actors and the directors and everything are obviously the real people in the movie. Mm-hmm. Heather Langenkamp, Wes Craven, Robert Englund, they all play themselves, and Freddy starts coming into their dreams. This is a horror channel. You guys know the movie. So Cecil wanted to make a fan sequel to that film, not the canon films that came before, the ones in Springwood and all that, right? This was this really cool idea of, that meta thing and expanding upon it in the future. And I think, and as you guys know, if you've watched the channel enough, I won't bullshit you, right? I'm not going to sit here and tell you this film is great or something because my friend made it. I really would give you my honest opinion here. So synopsis wise, this is of course about Dylan having a new nightmare now.
And just like the title suggests.
I told him I would keep this spoiler free, and I intend to. Here's what Cecil himself said on stage before the movie started, and when someone yelled out spoilers, he's like, that's not a spoiler. So I'll give his brief synopsis, not verbatim, of course. Essentially, Heather Langenkamp, after surviving the events of the first film, or the seventh film, she is now in a mental institution. And Dylan Porter, he has taken up acting, and he's trying to move on with his life. And he's a working actor who's trying to get a job in an undisclosed movie, which is a really fun part of the movie. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you can guess who shows up. So that's really it. I mean, that's the setting of the stage there. So, okay. Another thing that needs to be known really quick is that this movie comes out tomorrow on Thursday on YouTube for free. So you don't got to pay for it. You should watch it if you're a Nightmare on Elm Street fan for sure.
Absolutely.
But number two, I'm not a fan of fan films, and I typically don't watch them. I've seen a few, but I haven't seen many, honestly.
I don't think I've seen any.
Because they usually, to me, they just never do much for me.
I think this might be the first fan film that I've seen, but I really like the concept of fan films in general.
Sure.
Like, I would totally watch more of them, but I know that you don't really enjoy them most of the time, so
I'm open to watching them.
It.
I like think that this to me is like the putting your money where your mouth is kind of thing, right? Where people say, oh man, I could make the best Friday the 13th movie. I don't know why they can't make one right since blah, 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 right? And Cecil actually did it. He was like, they haven't made a Nightmare on Elm Street movie in a long time, and here's one I think would be cool. I'm going to make it. And he did. And he got the original actor back to play Dylan in a fan film. Now, the budget on this movie was $60,000, and which is pretty crazy. So let's get to it. Overall, I did get to see this in theaters. Theaters, technically. We were at a horror con, the Gathering of the Ghouls in Mesa at the Mesa Convention Center, and they played this in an auditorium for us. And I was, as I said, like, I'm not going to bullshit you. This is definitely the best fan film I've seen. Now, I haven't seen a ton of them, but this is definitely the best one for sure for
Mm.
me personally. Because number one, the production value on it was really solid.
Mm.
It felt like a lower budgeted feature and not like someone grabbed their mom's camcorder behind her back
And
and
was
filmed it
like,
with no
put on the
talent.
Freddy
I've
mask.
seen a decent amount of those, and I can't stand those. But this felt like an actual legit lower budgeted movie, and I was really taken by that at first, where I because it's my friend making it, and I went to support him, and I was just like, yeah, dude, I'm gonna be there no matter what. But of course, you get nervous because you're like, I don't want to shit on your film, so maybe I won't review it. But I was very relieved when I was watching it, like, wow, this looks really good and is actually pretty well written and pretty well thought out, and it is purposely left for more. So we'll talk about that. But I definitely want to get your thoughts because I've now seen it twice
Yes.
because she didn't get to see it with me in the theater experience. We got to watch it at home in a screener
Yeah.
that he sent me. But what were your thoughts watching it at home?
Um, this is the best and only fan film that I've seen. I agree with you as far as like the production quality. I thought that it looked really great, and I really enjoyed it. Like the lighting, I was a big fan of the lighting in this. I think that that was done really well. The acting, of course, I enjoyed, and I do think it's well written. I pretty much echo all your sentiments, and honestly, like when it ends, I like looked over at you and I was like, what? Like I would totally watch like a feature length film, like just going forward, because
Yeah.
I feel like it's got a really good hook and I was invested, in the 26 minutes or whatever it is, the length. So yeah, I don't know. I really liked it. I had a really good time with it. I'm sad that I didn't get to see it on the big screen because that would have been fun. But
Honestly, and Cecil had this problem both times, I guess. The projector that he was using, it was putting it up on the screen too dark. And so there were
mm,
scenes where you couldn't really tell what was going on. I, inferred for myself what was happening. I won't say what because it's spoiler free, but I had a feeling like, okay, and I even leaned over because I was sitting next to another friend of mine who was part of the production, is actually in the film for a second, my buddy Fuego. I kind of leaned over and was like, is that supposed to be this? And he's like, yeah, man. And he's like, I feel really bad for Cecil. This is so dark. He's like, that happened to him last time. You just can't win with the screenings. But yeah, I was I was actually pretty impressed. I thought with the audience that I was with, it probably, I don't know how many people were in there, maybe 50 to 100 or something.
mm,
Um, when there was like jokes, they were landing with the audience and they were laughing, and this is a good example. I think what this shows is promise in Cecil as a director. I think
yeah,
that he definitely has a good eye for
yes,
film.
yeah, I agree.
And I think with a proper budget, he could do a lot more.
Yes, yeah.
Because, yeah, this film definitely has limitations. And this film definitely has some things that would be much improved upon with the right budget. But that, I don't want to take away from the film by saying like, oh, if it only had this, it'd be better. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. I think it's good as is. I just see the potential, and
Mm,
that's the point. And with a fan film, this is a passion project. Um, Cecil even told me because I asked him about all of this. I was like, how does this work as far as being lucrative for you and worth your
mm,
time? Like, what will you see in money? And he was like, nothing, no matter what. I'm not allowed to make any money off this. And that's what I asked him. I was like,
Mm,
because you
right.
literally can't, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, and any money we make over our budget and whatever money we owe, I said I would donate to, like, I think it was Wes Craven's favorite charity. You
Mm,
know, whatever he may have said when he was alive. I think that's what he said.
mm,
So regardless, he's never going to see a cent from this, and his intention is that this gets a big enough reception that he can finance an even bigger sequel. And so a guy named Vincent DeSanti, who worked on the Never Hike Alone movies, Never Hike Alone, Never Hike Alone in the Snow, and now the upcoming Never Hike Alone 2, which is really weird titling because the snow one is not the part 2. I don't know. Sequel numbers don't make any sense anymore today. But he's a producer on this, and he just raised $300,000
oh wow.
for Never Hike Alone 2.
Oh wow.
And spoilers, if you haven't seen those movies, you know, the original uh, Tommy Jarvis from Friday the 13th Part 6 comes back
Mm,
as Tommy Jarvis in that as well. So, and he has him in there as like the main character. So these fan films are definitely evolving for
mm-hmm.
sure. Dave McCrae, I think that's how you say his name. He plays Freddy in this, which that's
Oh
something we
yeah,
haven't
I
even
was gonna
discussed yet.
say they had the Freddy in this.
So
The
with
make.
this kind of movie, the fan film aspect of it, you're going to immediately think, and this is what I immediately thought, was like, oh man, like Michael's pretty easy to do.
Yes.
Jason's a little harder, but still fairly easy. But someone like Freddy
Yeah.
is very complicated to do in a lot of ways. Number one, budget,
Yeah.
right? Makeup, effects, all that stuff. Then there's the performance,
Yeah.
right? Because yeah, Michael has a certain body language to him. It changes in every freaking movie. Same thing with Jason.
Yeah.
You know, you can play the hulking guy or
Yeah, but
whatever.
Freddy has a personality.
Yes. And he's iconic.
Very iconic.
Right? He's super iconic. And you are trying to emulate Robert Englund's
Right.
Freddy in the new Nightmare movies more so than the ones in the Freddy movies. But Dave's also, you know, wants to make it his own.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that maybe where this film is the most successful with as little time as they may get, the Freddy is killer.
Absolutely. I actually thought that this Freddy was really scary. It was giving me like Nightmare 2 vibes at times, like with his eyes.
It's definitely one of the.
And
This is not like
goofy,
humorous, goofy,
but
he has some, which is that's retained over from like the original Nightmare,
right,
where there's some playfulness to him,
yeah,
but it's mostly like, it's like a combination of 1 and 2.
Yeah, I like Freddy when he's a mix of both of those things, because I think as a killer, he can be very scary, but I also like that he has this like goofy playfulness to him, but it's like at the expense of his victims, of course.
Sure.
But yeah, I thought that the makeup looked really wonderful, and the scenes with Freddy in this, I think that they're very creatively shot. I was really into, obviously without getting into spoilers, but there's a few scenes where there's some cool stuff done that just felt very nightmarish and dreamlike, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's one that I want to talk about, but I can't.
Speaking of which, I think because of the couple people that we've mentioned, whether it's Vincent DeSanti or Dave McCrae, if we are to watch fan films, and I did review both of those Never Hike Alone movies on the channel. I liked them. I like this more. But I also, Dave, who plays Freddy, he is the director of a fan film called It's Me, Billy, which is a fan film sequel to Black Christmas, and is getting a sequel right now as well. So Cecil was very smart to bring on, he's also lucky but smart, because he has connections, because he is the real deal, because he goes to all these horror cons and he networks really well, and he's a very smart horror fan who puts his creativity and his money where his mouth is, and he was able to grab two of the most successful fan film directors currently around, make friends with them, and get them to work on this film, not only as their Freddy or his Freddy, but also his producer. Yeah. And so you had three creative minds plus Miko from the original film to be there as like a guiding force and a producer to be like, I was on set with Wes and I know the vision and everything, and he can kind of speak up in that capacity as well. So he really had everything going for him on this, and he utilized it. He actually was able to be successful with that. Some people squander that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And he was able to be successful. So I'm super proud of him. I told him that at the premiere. I actually stood up and was like, hey, just, not to blow my friend right here in front of everybody, but I just was like, hey man, I gotta go. I got something going on right now, but I just wanted to say congrats. I'm so proud of you, whatever. And I walked away. Thunderous applause, of course. No. But yeah, it just was super cool to see, Dave wasn't there. Vincent was, as was Miko at the premiere, and they just all seemed to have a real passion for it, which was great. And I've met all of them before, and in the past they're just people who really love horror movies and this and the fans, and it's cool to see people's dreams come true, because you never really know what kind of product you're getting when you watch a film. Some people, they demean themselves or whatever by going to horror movies because they're like, oh, I just got to do this, to get in the business, and I'll just do one and then I'll do real movies from there. Some people, the actors, the directors, whoever, they look down on this. And this was made by people who are like, I'm not going to make $1 from this. This is really freaking hard. I really have to pull a rabbit out of a hat here, a miracle. And to actually make it successful and work, this is absolutely worth your time if you're a Nightmare on Elm Street fan. Now, I don't want to make it seem like, it's gonna like rival the original or anything like that. It's not that. But this is a passion project by talented people who really wanted to share their vision with limitations, but did the best that they freaking could, and that best is really impressive.
Yeah.
So
congrats
really to everybody, because I mentioned a few other people, but there's so many people who were involved in this project, and I love this kind of stuff. This is the kind of stuff I enjoy reviewing, because this isn't backed by millions of dollars and the best of the best in the business, and this is just good old horror fans getting together and doing what they love and sharing it with the people who they know love what they love. And that's just, that's so simpatico. That's so beautiful. And I love it. As a horror fan, how could I not? Yeah. So this is the kind of fan film I gush over, even though I don't typically watch them. It's something like this that makes me much more open to them. But they have to be good. They have to be something that I'm not just gritting my teeth through and going, I know the person loves it, but I'm hating it. I didn't have to do that with this movie. And as far as the nods go to like New Nightmare and the franchise, they're there. There's cool things that I absolutely wanted to see, and absolutely, like Kaylee said, I leave this going, 100%. I'm down to watch more. Yeah. And Cecil said himself, I would like to Vince. Vince was going to make like 3 or 4 more parts to Never Hike, but because they raised so much money, he's like, screw it. I'm going to finish this whole damn thing in one final movie. Yeah. And Cecil's like, I could do this. Like, the story I have conceived is like multiple more parts, but if this is received well enough, I can finish this in one thing, right? If I can get enough money together. And I really hope that happens for him, and I will be there to help him. And this one I'm going to show up for because I'm supposed to be in the opening of this movie, but I missed that day. And I'm still kicking myself because there's literally a seat empty next to Fuego. And I was like, I don't know if that seat's actually supposed to be for me, but I was like, that seat's empty because my ass should be in it and I should be in this fucking movie. But I could not make it work. I couldn't get down here for that day. And I'm like, but I'm there. Now that I live here, I am there for part 2. You got me this time. And it's not because it's successful in this, because I really wanted to be part of the other one, even if it sucked. I was like, I still want to be there for you. So Cecil, I know you're watching. I'm in the next one. I don't care if I'm in the film. I just mean I'll help you in any way I can. And I'm going to promote the shit out of it here on the channel. So
yes.
Congrats, buddy. I'm super proud of you. That's awesome. This movie is very successful. Congrats to Miko for making a glorious comeback to the franchise. And Vincent and Dave for the amazing Freddy.
Yes,
cool
super
shit.
Cool Freddy.
Yeah. So
yeah, I want to see more.
Absolutely. And once again, really, really impressed with how this looks and feels. Like, it does have that smaller budgeted feel to it. It's not like, blockbuster feeling or anything.
No, but it's like really clean and
feels like
professional too. Like
professional low budget film.
Feels like it's like made by people who know what they're doing.
Yes.
That's very super competent.
Yeah. But other than spoilers, that's all I got for now.
That's all.
So tomorrow, I think it's at like 7 p.m. our time, Arizona time. I think that's right. Just check periodically. It will be on The Horror Show. So go to The Horror Show at YouTube. I'll put a link in the description below. And follow them so that, when it drops, you'll know.
You can watch it.
If you're a Nightmare on Elm Street fan, support it.
Yes.
Watch it. At least give it a shot. If you hate it, oh well, you only wasted 20-some minutes of your life. Not a big deal. But it's stuff like this you should support, in my opinion. And that's that.
That's that.
Anything else?
Great job, everybody.
Yeah, good job. All right.
All right. Bye.